Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, a good day to you. I am back for another installment of Astro Lunatic's Guide to the Universe. It is I, Susan, your hostess on this flight into the stars and the cosmos. And I hope you're doing well on this Sunday. It is November 5th in the year of 2023. And I'm happy to be here. I hope everyone had a good week. It was interesting to say the least, and we will talk about that. But before we get started, I would like to say, if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel, like the video. If you want to receive updates, don't forget to click the little bell so that you'll get notified when I upload a new video. I have to remind everyone that when I do my Sunday shows, my weekly stuff, and usually when I pop up during the week, I come in live. So if you go to my channel and you're looking for my videos, my past videos, most of them you will find under the live tab. So if you go to the channel, you'll see the feed, and then it's usually there's a home feed, which might be, I don't know, selected recommended videos, and then the next one over is videos. If you look at the little menu that goes across, if you hit videos, those are the pre-recorded uploaded videos. And then you have to go to the live tab and you will find my archive of videos that are mostly streamed live. I've been pretty good. Actually, I've not been pretty good lately. I'm a little slack on it lately, but I usually like to put um, my videos in a playlist. I'll see if I can remember to update that this week so that you can distinguish between what are my live videos and what is just a random pop-up video. And speaking of which, I am highly annoyed. I mean, that's nothing unusual. I'm usually annoyed at something lately these days, but um, I did one video during the week. I believe I did it on Monday, and it is entitled Aquila and the Abduction of Ganymedes. And it was not my usual pop up, what's going on today, current astrology ramblings. It was actually specifically about the constellation Aquila and the mythology, the story of Aquila and Ganymedes, which is Aquarius, the water bearer, and the whole story behind it. But what prompted it, what inspired it was I had been watching a video series by another on another channel, and um, although the material is very good, the they did mention the constellation Aquila as being in the constellation of Scorpio, which my my nitpicky Virgo planet said, excuse me, actually, that's not true. Um, So I hope, and I linked this person's work and I said, check check these videos out. They're very informative. I did enjoy the material, but as an astrologer, I had to, it, you know, I don't usually go and correct people, but sometimes I do. I I I know people hate people like that sometimes, but um I don't know. It's not I guess I guess it depends on how you approach it. Some people, I guess it will come across to them as, trying to look important, superior, um, like you're smarter, whatever. I don't know. I'm a stickler for accuracy. I try to be accurate in my work, and I know that it's difficult if someone's not familiar with astrology, but if it's something, it is something that I look at specifically. So I pick up on, and sometimes people misspeak. I get that too. I do that. But I don't know. It wasn't the fact I didn't make the video because I felt like I needed to correct that person specifically, but the fact that the constellation of Aquila and the connection to this person's work was is much more there's much more uh, nuance and deeper layers of what the mythology is behind these constellations and what it relates to, which got me censored. God damn it. Um, I'm sure I was censored. So I'll get to that. So my point in making the video was to say, hey, like, there's a deeper layer of this, and um, it actually validates and confirms the work of this other person, which I don't really follow their work necessarily. I'll tell you who it was. I don't know. Should I even mention the person's name? I swear to God, I got like put in the stockades for just, I think, possibly mentioning. It could be because I mentioned certain keywords which are verboten. I guess I hit my glass ceiling. Now I know where the boundaries are. Um, I just didn't think they would care about me. Like, who am I? I got like 50 subscribers, and and my view counts have been going up, which I've been really happy about. That doesn't mean everybody's listening to the end, but whatever. I see better numbers, so I'll just chalk that up to improvement. Um, but either by mentioning this person's name or linking to their work, like maybe they're in some sort of like solitary confinement that I now find myself in. I hope not. Cancel, cancel. But I'll tell you what happened with this video. So, you know, I'm not all about the numbers. What I look at is increase and improvement, and that makes me happy. Um, but I know what my consistent numbers are for pretty much every weekly video, and it's a good percentage of the people who subscribe to me. So, I feel like I'm on the right track. Anyway, Monday, I upload this video, which is still on my channel here, by the way, under the live tab, Aquila and the abduction of Ganymedes. Like, it's got me wondering now, like, what words am I saying that I'm not allowed to say? It's fucking bullshit, is what it is. Whatever. So, yeah, so I upload that video, and within a day, I get 10 views, which is, you know, whatever. It's probably on par with what I expect. My normal within a 24-hour range of what how many views I should be getting. And then I check a day or two later and I've gone down to 5. So basically I lost half the views. Okay, that's weird. Isn't that weird? So then I realize, okay, I struck a nerve and somehow um I've been boxed. So hey, go over and when you get a chance, everybody, go back and uh watch or listen to that particular podcast that I uploaded on Monday. It really doesn't relate to the current astrology. Um Not really, but it's very interesting what the connections are between that particular constellation and also Aquarius that I had found um, a while back within, in my research and kind of looking at the myth and the archetypes and how they could pertain to certain things and issues that we're dealing with now, which is the point of astrology. It really is the archetypal story of the planets and the stars and the constellations. They tell a story, and it is possibly our ancient past. And fast forward to today, um, living out our current situations and um, how the roots of the problems, the issues, the struggles that we have today are they really are very, very deep and ancient, and those influences are still here on the planet in different shapes and sizes and forms. However, we're still struggling and playing out these mythological stories. That's what makes astrology so fascinating for me. Anyway, just wanted to share that little story of being muzzled. I'm not even mad. A part of me like doesn't even care. I feel like the views are there and I'm just not whatever. They keep the numbers low so it doesn't, pop up in searches and whatever they do. I don't really care. I'm always going to say what I want and I don't care. I don't care. It's not for me about it's not about the visibility or, the number of views or, whatever. It's not about clout. It is about me doing what I love, sharing it with people, and whoever relates to the material is whoever it's meant to reach. It's not my concern, although it does concern me that I'm being interfered with. But what else is new? It's kind of the story of my life. Being invisible, not being heard or seen. It's just whatever. It's just, I'm just used to it because that's what it is. And maybe it'll change, but maybe it won't. Um, but I have to keep doing what I do because that's what brings me joy, happiness, and fulfillment. So even if I never get recognized for the work that I've done, I am doing it for me and I'm getting a lot out of it more than just, you know, being happy that I could be here with you guys on YouTube and talking about astrology. It's more than that. It's a very, very deep excavation, the archaeology that I am engaged in, which obsesses me to no end. But on that note, let's talk about Scorpio and serpens. So, Scorpio, the tropical sign of Scorpio, is coincident with the constellations of Ophiuchus, spelled Ophiuch. Hang on. I can't do this from memory. Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus, which at one time was claimed by some pop culture astronomer, whatever, some dingleberry decided they were going to insert themselves into the astrological community and say, there's not 12 signs, there are 13, so your sign might not be your sign, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so what the deal is, Ophiuchus is what they claim to be the 13th sign. Yes, there were astrological systems that did include Ophiuchus, but as for us today, what we can understand is that Ophiuchus falls within degrees of Scorpio and Sagittarius both. So the story of Ophiuchus is that so Ophiuchus or Serpentarius, the serpent holder, the serpent bearer, the serpent wrestler, or the snake charmer. So he's depicted holding a snake, and the snake is the constellation Serpens. Okay, so it represents the struggle of power and balancing the energy between the two, and the serpent holder is constantly wrestling with the snake. And so the degrees in this part of Scorpio are very, very, they have a very deep message for us. And what it has to do with is healing, as Ophiuchus is also known as, or is believed to be, the um, the god Asclepius, spelled many different ways. The easiest way that most people spell it would be Asclepius. And so Asclepius was an ancient physician. He was a healer and was one who was known to be able to raise the dead. So, this is the concept of the death and rebirth, resurrection, phoenix like power of Scorpio. But let's not forget that it's really only the degrees of the stars, the fixed stars that are located in Serpens and Ophiuchus that really have that power of regeneration and healing and the ability to literally raise the dead, which I fully believe in. I I'm certain that there are, whatever, there's no doubt in my mind that there are people who carry that healing ability. And I would expect to see planets um, in the degrees that would be correlating to Ophiuchus and Serpens. So, some other things that this constellation of Serpens and Ophiuchus, which, by the way, Serpens is the what you see on your screen here, what I've chosen for the screen. It's a beautiful artwork depicting the constellation of Serpens, the serpent, and so it relates to traditional healers that use herbs and work on uh, the energetic points in the body, and so it is related to or associated with herbs, potions, charms, incantations, exorcism, magic, divination, prayers, and everything that one would consider to be um, what the tools would be that the healer would use. So those things are also associated with Serpens and Ophiuchus. And so Asclepius is a like a priest, was a priest physician in ancient Greece, and so people would go to him looking to be healed of their ailments, and they would go to what would have been like a sanitarium, which nowadays we think, oh, that's just for crazy people, but think back to when there was a time when hospitals and such things were healing centers. So their hospitals or healing centers were called Asclepion, and it was really a sanctuary, truly a healing spa where people could go to be healed from their diseases. And so the degrees of Serpens and Ophiuchus are known for that type of energy. Ophiuchus, who holds the serpent. And of course, as we've discussed before, the serpent, and especially here in Serpens, as it relates to Ophiuchus, the serpent energy is the Kundalini energy of the body. So, also, if you have seen, I'm sure you've seen the symbol usually for the medical uh, I don't industry, I guess, in the medical profession. What you see is a staff with two wings on either side and two serpents. So that's the staff of Hermes. And the staff of Asclepius only has one serpent. So those are two different staffs, but the staff of Hermes, or uh, well, Hermes and Mercury. same thing, um, is considered to be a symbol of commerce. And isn't that interesting that our healing profession or the industry, it is an industry. It's commerce. It's not healing necessarily. It's not healthcare, really. It's sick care. Ooh, am I allowed to say that? I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about health. Screw them. Yeah. So that's the meaning of the serpent handler and serpens. You know, um, we do have in the constellations and the mythology, the stories, we do have several serpents and dragons in the sky. And dragon and serpent energy is very similar. Um, so yeah, I mean, we have Draco, but that's a dragon. It's a four-footed snake reptile. Um, but not a true snake because the snakes don't have feet. And so let's look at the degrees so I could just let you know what degrees we're talking about in Scorpio. Let's go to Serpens. Serpens. And we're talking about the tropical zodiac degrees where this particular constellation aligns with. And so we're talking about 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 26 degrees of Scorpio. That's Serpens. Those are the stars. The most prominent and important one is Unu Unukalhai. Unukalhai. Unukalai, I think it's pronounced. And that's 22 to 23 degrees of Scorpio. So there are other minor stars in this constellation, but that's the most powerful one in Scorpio. And then we have a few stars in Sagittarius. We have 25, 26 degrees Sagittarius. And we also have there's two of the stars. So this would be the tail of the serpent in Capricorn. Yay, Capricorn. So we have 6 degrees of Capricorn and we have 15 to 16 degrees of Capricorn. So the two main stars in serpens are Unukalai and Alia, Alya. So that's 16 degrees of Capricorn. That's the tail of the starry serpent. And so the serpent itself, that's the energy that represents the Kundalini energy, which is the energy that we use to heal. Ophiuchus, on the other hand, which is Asclepius, that constellation is located at um, okay. So mainly in Sagittarius, not so the so Serpens is in it has its main star in Scorpio, and so that's the heart. Unukalai is the heart of the serpent. That's 22 degrees, 23 degrees of Scorpio. And then the tail is in Capricorn, 15 to 16 degrees. Now, Ophiuchus is in Sagittarius, so we have quite a few major stars in Ophiuchus. Actually, almost all of them are major, um, meaning they have names. The other ones are like Delta, Epsilon, stars that are not named. But you don't need to know that right now anyway. So 2 to 3 degrees of Sagittarius, Yed prior, Yed posterior at 4, Marfik at 6, Han 10 degrees. And then we have 12 degrees, 18 degrees, 22 degrees, 23, 26, 27, and 29, 30. Those are, I'm just naming those degrees so that if you know your chart and you know you have a planet or a point in your chart on those degrees between about 2 degrees, well, pretty much almost all of um, the degrees in Sagittarius, a lot of them, not all of them, but anyway, there's quite a few of them. So if you have any of those degrees connected to a planet, then Ophiuchus would be um, a constellation that would be very instrumental in your chart. And so this idea of healing and transmuting, because Ophiuchus, because he works with the serpent energy, and so the serpent is poisons, yes, but it's also um, medicine, medicine and healing. It can go both ways. So that's the energy of Ophiuchus, and it is about transmuting poison and alchemy, so you can look at that as transmuting things on a emotional level or on a physical level, and the excretion of poisons and healing the body with herbs and energy medicine and prayer, stuff like that. So that's mainly the degrees of Sagittarius. And although we are concentrating on Scorpio at this time because we're in Scorpio season, I did want to bring out this particular, uh, I wanted us to kind of look at what we're also going to be moving into when we switch over into Sagittarius season. We're not there yet. Um, we're still working through the Scorpio stuff. And so I just wanted to, yeah. What do we have like coming out on the other side? There's a lot of hope and healing, transmutation that we'll be able to do, but even though we're still in the Scorpio energy because the sun is in Scorpio, we are going to be having some shifts this week. And so um, that will be, so there will be some changes going on this week as we now can talk about what is coming up for this week. But this past week has been pretty intense, and that's due to the sun, Mercury, Mars all being in Scorpio. It's been mm, dragging up a lot of stuff that, you know, it's like the sediment at the bottom of a jar and somebody just shook the jar. and the water's all murky now. There's all this like psycho emotional stuff going on and very, you know, stuff that's normally quite buried, coming up to the surface, definitely excavating the scorpionic depths of our mental and emotional well being and functioning. And so we still have, as where we're at, let's talk about where we're at today. Yesterday, Saturn went direct. So that's a very important shift. And we have both, let's see, we have Venus and Mercury, both that are also changing signs this week. So they will aspect Saturn. But let's talk for a minute about Saturn because Saturn has been retrograde for many moons now. And things move very, very slowly in the Saturn realm when Saturn is retrograde. Um, we've had to reverse and go back over things, and it's caused a lot of obstacles and delays because that's what Saturn does on a good day. Saturn on a good day is still going to test you and say, uh, you need to wait, or you need to deal with this issue. You need to show some restraint, maturity, um, all of those Saturn keywords. And, it makes Saturn a little bit feared, but we all have to deal with it, honestly. And everybody's got a Saturn in their chart. And if you have, so Saturn is at 0 to 1 degree of Pisces. So if you have any planets in the very early degrees of any sign, or the very, very late degrees, if we give it an orb of 5 degrees, we could look at anything 25 degrees of a sign to 5 degrees, the beginning of any uh, another sign. Um, so if you know your chart, if you have anything at those degrees, you will be feeling it. And so, what does that feel like? It feels like committing, staying the course. It feels like taking on responsibility, accountability, facing difficult challenges, dealing with delays and waiting, and I guess asking ourselves, what is challenging us at this time? What do we feel blocked from? Um, or that we need to maybe just take a look at, like, if things are not moving forward, is it due to something that we're we need to, I don't know, take a more mature approach, or there's a lesson in it. Whatever it is, there's a lesson in it. And Saturn is kind of a wet blanket. But uh but Saturn rewards, and Saturn is about long-term goals and delayed gratification and playing the long game, really. So the rewards come, and they just don't come easy. That's just the way it is. So Saturn slowing down, I think, has put it's put a somber, serious tone on, you know, the collective. There's a collective wet blanket moment. So Saturn went direct yesterday. And so in its retrograde, I talked about it in a previous show where, like, during these time periods where it went retrograde and now it's stationed and it's going to go direct, there's been sort of a delay and a contemplation and a reviewing of a commitment or, renewing of a commitment, or, um, it could be that we are being freed from a commitment. Uh, it all depends, obviously, on people's chart, but we're we're taking things more seriously now. And so this week is going to be the um the playing out of whatever our Saturn story was for the retrograde. And it will be about the decisions that we make and how this will affect our relationships. Because we have this week, first, Venus will be going into Libra. And as I said before, we have those two planetary shifts. So this is the big influence for the week, really. There are some other things going on, but because Saturn has stationed, and Saturn moves so slow that it's not just that day and you feel the gravity and the weight of it. It takes time for Saturn to gain speed and move forward. Um, so it is going to play into Mercury moving into Sagittarius because Mercury will square Saturn. And then Venus moving into Libra will make an inconjunct to Saturn. So, um, this will, if you see what happens with whatever, what do you see showing up in your reality in regard to love and finance and values and females and partnership and balance and equality and decision making, because Libra is notoriously wishy-washy and fence sitting and doesn't want to rock the boat. Uh, and our communications, our belief, our truth, as Mercury moves into Sagittarius. Um, and so it has to do with our communication and our um, willingness to have discussions about our commitments, our relationships. Mercury and Venus are very much in harmony. So mentally, we um, we are able to understand and communicate what our values are, what our how we feel about relationships, and what it is that we're using, a higher perspective and looking at relationships or finance, right? Our Venus issues, um, from a higher perspective, because Mercury in Sagittarius is bringing in all of the information that we've learned and assimilating it and um, being able to, yeah, take that higher perspective, really. So the mind and the desire and um, what we want to attract in Venus, which is needing to really look at and take a good hard look at, because those are two hard aspects to Saturn. Okay. Saturn is demanding now that we make a decision, make a commitment, um, set a boundary and stick to it, because we have to come into alignment with our, um, being able to communicate our what we believe and what we've learned about relationships, and kind of, be congruent with how we speak and how we communicate, what we say, we value. And Sagittarius is about the truth, okay? And perhaps we are being shown by Saturn, which is a reality check, the cold hard truth of where our maybe our belief systems um, are not lining up in certain relationships, or not being able to communicate what in a fair and balanced way, because this is what we want. We want Mercury and Venus to work together. We want our mind, our understanding, our communications, the information that we have assimilated and what we've learned and how we've grown throughout the time that Mercury was in Scorpio, by doing the deep dive and reflection and really looking at our shadow, our uncomfortable stuff, right? Whether it's the lack of intimacy, the lack of sex, the lack of real, true connection. Because Scorpio, when we come talk about intimacy in Scorpio, it's not just sex, it's not just the physical intimacy, but it is really the ability to see the other and be seen by them and understood and validated, uh, to be able to express what's going on deep within us and where we feel blocked to do that. you know um it seems like everybody wants to do that, but are we talking and not listening? Is it all about us, or is it being projected onto other people? It's not us with the problem, it's the other person. And because there's been a lot of that going on too. Venus in Virgo is it's been super critical this whole past week. And being Venus being in opposition to Neptune, um, it's a lot of looking at the faults in another person, and then Venus with its making a trine towards the end of the week. It's still actually it's right it's not it's happening now. So it's, what does the other person need to do to fix themselves, and um, with the trine to Pluto at the end of Capricorn. But this is sort of like that, like father knows best, you know, like you know what's best for another person, or you know what's wrong with that person. But really, the criticism comes from this like rejection of what you're seeing in another person. This is just my synopsis of what I've been watching all week long. This, like, my question is, why does it bother you so much? Or why do you think you know best for that person? Or, you know, can you just listen to them and let them express to you who they are and not see them only through the filter of who you are and what your values are? Uh, there's been so much of that sort of like, I don't know, this is such a fucking control freak drama going on, and Venus in Virgo is super fucking judgy. It's like, who the fuck are you? You know? And this truly a narcissistic view of the other, the quote other, and how in narcissistic personality, I mean, obviously a sliding scale and a spectrum. There's an inability to separate yourself from the other person in that you can only see them through your shaded lenses of who you are and what your values are. And so you end up, your acceptance and rejecting of that person, of another person, is based on what you hold to be a standard of right or wrong, good or bad, and where your standards and your values are the right way. And so when they don't line up with what you think is good or right or is okay or what you think they should do, then, you know, they're judged and labeled as wrong or bad, or, then somebody feels the need to control and coerce, and a lot of times it's done under the guise of guidance and, I'm concerned for you, but really you're not seeing that person, because truly seeing someone and loving them unconditionally is just to see them for who they are and not judge it as right or wrong, and just be present and hold space for that person to express what they're going through, or who they are, without, you know, throwing up in your mouth. I'm thinking about a particular situation. I don't think I should talk about it, but I did observe it, and I found myself kind of judging too. Um, I was judging someone while they were judging other people, but sort of going back and forth. See, this is the snake handler, the snake charmer, because a lot of my own stuff came up because of it, So I was detoxing my own emotional poisons, and while observing this person, because I've been on the receiving end of that, but I've also been on the giving end. So I get both sides, and I realized it's a it's a character trait and flaw that I don't like in this particular person, although I like them very much. have a lot of respect for them in some respects. But when I see this particular thing rear its ugly head, I I throw up in my mouth a little bit. And then so I stepped back and I self-observed, which is what I do. And rather than just judge them, reject them, I'm just not going to talk to them anymore. I'm not going to interact, whatever. Just leave them be. And they're just a, you know, unpleasant person, whatever. It's an unpleasant part of the personality, but I also see it in myself and I have judged it in myself. And um, my point is, when we do that, we're seeing something really in another person, we're projecting onto them, and it's something that we have to look at for ourselves. And in my opinion, this person judges other people in that way because they don't like a certain behavior that they think and they have been conditioned that that is bad, that that's not okay to do that. And maybe they actually really need to do that and they're not giving themselves permission to engage in the behavior that they were judging. I know this sounds very convoluted and maybe I'm confusing everybody, but I hope you get what I mean. Anyway, I did have to speak up about it because it's something that keeps me from wanting to interact with that person and causes me a little pain because I really do like them. I love them, in fact, but it's just that one thing. It gets stuck in my craw. Uh, but I used it as a yoga, as an exercise to look at myself and look at both sides, look at the negative feelings that it brought up and, you know, try not to mentally engage in skewering them and because I just don't want to send out that kind of energy, but I guess, you can't help it. Whatever. Sometimes I can't help it. But it was an exercise for me to train my mind and to take dominion over my thoughts, so to speak, in a manner of speaking. And yes, so I did say something and it elicited the response that I thought it would, which was doubling down on it. And I also, because I know them, I'm like, they're gonna flip-flop and feel completely differently about it tomorrow because this is the one side of them, but I know the other side and they'll work it out. I'm not I didn't have to, you know, be the one that to enlighten them about their own issues, but I was dealing with my own issues and I had an issue with whatever was being said because the person tends to publicly criticize people and when they do it, I immediately like look at it and kind of internalize it and be like, do I do that? And sometimes I do. It's something that and then I'm like, are they talking about me? And then I realized I'm not the only one who's gonna ask themselves, like, who's the person talking about? Because when you publicly criticize someone and you don't name names and you don't give any context, everyone's gonna project onto it their own projection. Right? So if somebody is sensitive to criticism or a little insecure, like I am, I'm not going to lie, I'm honest, I'm open, I am transparent. Um, you're gonna be like, "Oh, like, I might have done that thing, or I did do that thing. Oh, that person maybe doesn't like me." So, in that respect, my observation is that the person is alienating, potentially, a lot of people, and I don't think it's his intention to do that. But I always have to bring it back to me. Because I've seen that with other people and because I observe how other people act publicly, and I look at it and I see the result, I'll be getting back to this really is Saturn stationing, believe it or not. I know it might seem like I'm going on a tangent, but this is Saturn stationing. Because taking accountability for one's own self, feelings, actions, and not projecting it onto other people is the point that I'm getting to. So I looked at that and I said, well, I don't want to make anyone feel that way. And I know how it looks when someone criticizes people publicly, throws shade, airs their dirty laundry, shadow shit in public, and it's kind of it's a turn off. And I'm I've 100% been guilty of it. So it has helped me to modify my behavior. And that is how Saturn learns. Smart Saturn observes other people's mistakes and says, note to self, not going to do that. Because Saturn can be very judgmental on its own. You know, when we feel like we are superior to other people and therefore we have the right to cast judgment and shade someone else who, you know, maybe they aren't as mature, or maybe they're not as self-contained as we are. Uh and Saturn also has a way of saying, you know, that's not right. Don't act that way in public. Keep up appearances, right? It's that too. So Saturn can be super critical and judgy also. And so that's why I'm saying everything that I just ranted about for about a half an hour definitely has to do with Saturn going direct, but it's only one aspect of it. I think a lot of what's happening here is that if I could give my takeaway, in order to have more balanced communication, repertoire, tete-a-tete, uh, diplomacy, Venus in Libra, harmonious relationships and discussions where both sides are equally represented because we can learn from each other. And if we want to be positive going forward in the future, um, and encompass everyone of different levels and abilities and belief systems or educational intelligence, whatever, uh, we have to find a new way of interacting, discussing, and communicating. And it has to be a place where both people are equally represented. Otherwise, there's no commitment, there's no future, there's nothing to build on. That's Saturn going direct in Pisces. Saturn in Pisces has been like walking in high heels on the beach. There's like, it's so hard to get traction. We have to create our own stability and our own structure in a world where there does not seem to be anything, solid. Saturn is solid and structure and commitment and certainty, and Pisces is none of those things. Absolutely none of those things. If I could say it was Saturn Saturn and Pisces walking on the beach in high heels, it's water skiing in high heels. It's crazy. So it's not easy, okay? It's going to take some hard work. So what shifts is the discussion. What shifts is what needs to shift is whether, if a thing has value, that's Saturn. That's also Venus. Then there has to be equality, balance, and both people equally represented. So the places where it's going to be difficult is when we start to talk about the relationship, the connection, where it's going in the future, what and where and when. We may come up against things where we don't necessarily align or agree. So, that said, let's look at the week. And okay, so we talked about Saturn. We're dealing with Saturn. It's heavy. It's serious. It's time to grow up. So that's going to be, Saturn will be moving forward, obviously, but very slowly. And Saturn will not move to the next degree until about the end of the month. Like November 28th, Saturn gets to be 1 to 2 degrees. So right now it's pretty much at 0. And there's things that are happening in between then. We're starting a discussion. We're starting a different type of communication. And then later on in the month, we'll be taking action on it when Mars goes into Sagittarius. But for now, let's consider this the beginning of the discussion of the rules of engagement. Think about it, love or war, right? All is fair in love and war. Venus is a warrior goddess right now. She is in Morning Star. So there is a bit of that feisty, fighty energy with Venus. And so we'll see that reflected in females. Okay. So here we are on the 5th. We're at November 5th. It is a 5-day in the numerology. And looking at where the moon is, we have the last quarter square. So when the moon squares the sun in the lunar cycle, we have the certain stages. We have the new moon. We have the first quarter square where the moon is waxing, it's growing. We have the full moon, and then we have the last quarter square. The last quarter square is meant for action. It's like whatever began around the new moon culminated with the full moon, and we are talking about grave and uh, impactful situations because we just had eclipses. And the lunar eclipse was sextile to Saturn. So we're talking about solidifying things, and now where we're going towards the future. Today, the last quarter square indicates action, movement. So the moon in Leo squares the sun in Scorpio. In Leo, we have asteroids Angel at 12 degrees of Leo. And so that would have been where the moon was when it squared the sun. So that may come into play and have significance for people. And then the moon will square uh, Mars at 17 degrees of Scorpio, and the moon will conjunct asteroid Union at 18 degrees of Leo, square to Mars. So, taking action, forming a union, as we've seen with the asteroid Union, this is definitely, um, this can definitely impact like actual unions, like trade unions, that kind of thing. So there could be interesting developments with that. Now we have Mercury, which has been opposite to Uranus over the past couple of days. So a lot of information, very, very deep communication, and opposite to Uranus, maybe shocking, surprising, people coming out with things that are just really off the cuff, things, information regarding finances, also because we're talking about Uranus in Taurus and Taurus's resources. So also, um, discussions regarding shared finances and resources because Mercury is in Scorpio. So talking about anything or learning about um, or it's where our mind is going, pondering very deep things and um, maybe realizing some things about finances, the financial situation, financial sectors. There's something happening here with banking, and it has to do with debts or loans or leveraging resources and finances, investments. Um, yeah, this is interesting. So this would have to do with the money supply and banks. So there is something going on there. Also, Venus has been opposite Neptune. So there is can be this sort of projection like I was talking about before, judgment, but like also um maybe not seeing situations clearly, uh, unrealistic, not having all the information if it comes to a relationship or finances, or maybe just ha- going forward with this sort of not very practical and like it will be okay even if it's not. There could be information in our face that says we need to address a certain situation, and Venus, oh, it'll be okay. Oh, the stock market's crashing, but it'll go back up, whatever. I don't really know. I haven't really checked to see what's going on. I know that Bitcoin has been, like crypto has been soaring. So is it possible that there is a dip coming with that? Because it seems like, I don't know, maybe some weird stuff going on. So also Venus trying to Pluto. And again, this is really over the next few days, uh, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. It'll peak just before Venus goes into Libra on the 9th. So be careful with money. Be careful. Try to see things clearly in your relationships. Don't project onto the other person, whether it's projecting an illusion of perfection and it's going to be everything that you want, or projecting judgment. There's a lot of that going on. But Venus is in sextile to Mercury. It is a good time to talk about money. And if you are partnered with anyone that you plan to share finances with, or you already do, this is a good time to talk about it and to address things that normally we might avoid. So these things are definitely, these aspects are a good time to talk about those things. And the moon being in Leo, it is, it will have people looking, really looking out for their own interests, but make sure that both sides are being represented and don't deal with any patterns of not really stepping up and talking about what it is that's, bothering us for fear of not wanting to rock the boat. But uh, we are having some good aspects that should move things forward with the moon squaring to Mars. That will produce some action. It will push us forward into uh, tr- pushing us forward towards creating a union because the aspects are wanting it. And with asteroid union in there, I really feel like that's kind of an underlying factor is because it's what we're being challenged to do, to create a union, so to speak. Um, but that involves both parties being represented equally. And yeah. So what's going on this week with Mercury going into Sagittarius also and Venus into Libra? We're going to see a push towards making things legal and contractual because Mercury is in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is law. And Libra, Venus in Libra is law. So if we're talking about prenuptial agreements or, in terms of people getting together, forming a union, a bond, a partnership, if it's a business partnership, we really want to look at the legal aspects of it because drawing up a contract ensures that both parties have the opportunity to be equally represented. So there will be a lot regarding that kind of thing. Or if we're talking about separation and dissolving of partnerships in terms of business ventures and creative projects, or, at the very, very basic, a marriage, there could be discussions of how to handle the separate finances. So it works both ways. Um, it could be custody arrangements, it could be filing for a divorce, and so that begins the separation period, depending on the state that you're in. It is legal, it's contractual, and part of that would be the separation of the property and the shared resources. So, I also have seen some stuff come up with taxes regarding during this Scorpio season. So, it's a good time to look at where you're at with your taxes. And if you need to make adjustments, move things around, put aside money because it looks like you're going to have to pay, this is a good time to look at it. But also, um, I think we'll be dealing with some changes in the tax laws, or in laws in general. Laws and regulations, procedural things, and uh, yeah, regulations, that kind of thing. Procedures, I mean, that would be like more on like local level, but governmental, because Saturn also represents government. So are we back to the budget thing? I don't think the House settled that because they needed a speaker. They didn't have one for a couple of weeks, and then they get they elect a speaker, and the first thing they do is cut a check for what's going on, where. But what they did was they took it from the IRS. So we'll see something more about that. More clarification and distinction about what that will mean for the um the IRS as an agency, where the money, you know, not where the money will go, but I think they will probably be looking at regulations and procedures and laws when it comes to the IRS. So that should be interesting to watch. Um, so let's go to Monday the 6th. So Friday was a 3-day. You know how I like to do. Friday was the 3-day. Look at where you were on that day, what you were dealing with. And tomorrow on Monday, the 6th, that is the building of the energy. That's the next step. And we've got, let's see, the moon will be still in Leo. It'll make supportive aspects to the nodes of fate, trine to the north node, and sextile to the south node. So it'll make it easier to let go of things. We are moving from one very significant time period into a new thing, and it's a new phase. So obviously, we have to contemplate and let go of some stuff that is attached to the old phase when it comes to our relationships. And we are very much supported if we are taking moves towards the North Node, which is Aries, which is the me, the individual, and where we're going towards self-sufficiency and our own um, uh, living in alignment with our own truth of and who we are, our identity, and uh, not being reliant. We talk about self-sufficiency, and what do we think? Oh, I could, how long can I live off the grid? Right? But self-sufficiency is mental, emotional, not just physical. There's, a lot of people that are very much here's where I feel like we're releasing and what we need to build as opposed to in the past. We're moving towards greater self sufficiency in terms of our relationships where we don't necessarily we know who we are, we know what we want, we know where we're going. We don't we we don't necessarily need the approval or the support. Well, while it is nice, we have to be able to make our decisions and move forward without relying too much on other people. So we are reducing our reliance on other people, whether it is their energy that we need, their approval, their love, their attention, their support, and moving more into this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going, and I'm not reliant so much on other people. Also, being self-reliant means that um, we gather all of the knowledge and the skills that we can that is going to help us in our lives, right? Because when at the end of the day, it comes down to us. We can only rely yes, we need to be able to rely on other people. It sucks when you can't rely on other people. So this is another thing. This is a dynamic that we're looking at with the North and South node in Aries and Libra. And the moon will be aspecting the North and the South node. This is why I think it could be coming up. And also, the moon will be squaring Mercury in Mercury in Scorpio, Mars in Scorpio. So it will probably, and Uranus in Taurus. So it's making us really want to break free from and detach from where we feel stuck with other people or a mindset, maybe stuck because of a mindset. Um, and what will come up is where uh, we want to we want to break free. We also could be getting a little angry because our our selfhood, our identity, our right to exist as who we are is being threatened in some way. So to feel like we want to partner, we want to cooperate, we're kind of reliant on other people keeping up their end of the bargain. Now, this will go back to Saturn going direct. Saturn is asking us if we are putting our money where our mouth is. If we are walking our walk, talking, are you talking the talk or you're just walking the walk? Are you just saying that you're there for people? Or when it comes down to what they need from you, do you really come through? Or is it all just talk? Is it shallow? Talk is cheap. So, really when it comes down to it, we have to we have to be prepared to do it ourselves. And the challenge comes when we are dealing with people who are not putting in as much effort, that they're not as committed, that they don't honor their commitment and their word. If they say they're going to do something for you, do they do it? And so I think on some level, it really strikes a chord, um, because the message is you're not that important. Your needs, your feelings, what you need from me isn't that important when somebody doesn't follow through. When you've told someone you need something from them and you can't do it yourself, or it's harder for you to do it for yourself, but they know how to do it, right? Um, and they say that they're there to help you. And so, under the understanding that it is a mutually beneficial relationship, this is where the idea of level of commitment comes in, is where, like, if you say you have my back and you care about me, but your actions don't line up, right? Like, when I really need you, are you really there? If I say to you, I'm really struggling with this, I need help, can you help me? And in the end, you leave me hanging, then do we really have an equally committed partnership? If I ask for somebody to do something, do they follow through? Can I rely on them? The reason why this is really coming up for a lot of people, I'll tell you why. Because there is an insecurity of in the world right now. There's so much uncertainty. And when times get tough, and they are going to get tough, they are tough and they are getting tougher. And as a Saturn person, very Saturn motivated, I remember years ago feeling like shit. If times got tough, like really tough, I know what I'm working with. I know what I bring to the table. And I know that I am a person that other people can rely on because they come to me for help. They come to me for guidance. I've always been that person. But like, I woke up one day and took a look around me, and it made me depressed. And then I was depressed for years because I realized that I had committed myself and taken on responsibility with other people that had no accountability whatsoever. And really, when it came down to it, were not there for me. And that was really hard. And so I've gone through that in periods in my life, but I'm looking at the aspects and I'm seeing this for an overarching time period that is related to the transit of the nodes in Aries and Libra. It's like ultimately, at the end of the day, I have to be able to rely on myself, but yet, we are in partnership and deal with other people. We have other people in our lives. And I think that we're really going to be looking very closely as at people in our lives as of where they where they fall on the spectrum. Are they an asset or are they a liability? And I know that that's really kind of, it seems like a really harsh way of looking at people and relationships in our life, but I'll tell you what, it sucks to lose time working towards something with someone or a group of people or whatever it is, being invested in something, and then you find out that the other parties are like just like they're not present and accountable for what's going on, and when it comes down to it, they're gonna choose the me instead of the we, because Aries Libra is the me and the we. And like the serpent, and like Ophiuchus, the serpent handler, we this is okay, so the serpent and the dragon in astrology is the north and south node. That is the dragon. So in like Vedic astrology, they refer to that as the dragon, the head of the dragon and the tail of the dragon. So it's what's being taken in and what's being excreted, what's growing and what we need to minimize. But we are constantly balancing that. So we have to balance between the me and the we. When do I have to think about myself? When am I giving too much of myself to another person and not receiving? There's not the reciprocity there because then I'm being drained. And when you realize that and you stop participating in that dynamic, and I mean that goes to the chronic givers and the people pleasers, and at some point we have to realize how this is not it's not good for us. So, anyway, I have dealt with that very personally, and it happens from time to time. I realize, oh shit, I'm giving to something that isn't producing a return. And it depends on the situation. You could bring it up to the person or not. It depends on how self-aware they are. It depends on, how important that relationship is to you. W- You're gonna have to pick your battles here because um, sometimes not saying anything and just speaking with your actions is probably the way to go. With Mars and Scorpio, it's more like, I will not give you my energy because you have displeased me. Yeah. Anyway, so mm, the sixth day, Monday, good day to assert yourself and reclaim your power and your dominance. All right, so the 7th, the moon will be in Virgo all day, and it will be making an opposition. So Tuesday, the 7th, the moon will make an opposition to Saturn. And that is, again, we're going to be faced with the Saturn energy, and Saturn says no. Like, or it says you got to work a little harder. It could be a reminder of where we are lacking, where we need to draw a boundary, where we need to be accountable, and where we are perhaps dealing with a little bit of emotional um, being emotionally unavailable, perhaps. The other thing that could come up with this moon opposite Saturn is judgment, feeling judged, feeling a little sensitive to criticism. So be aware of that. But either way, it is a good day to go over some of the finer details and get down to work, be practical, um, and draw up a plan. That's Tuesday. And that's a 6 day, so it's a good day to move with the energy. So when you're building something, if you're building with the energy, and the 3, the 6, and the 9 are usually the most potent days to work to solidify something. But it's a good day for details and being practical with the moon in Virgo and the opposition to Saturn, because likely you're going to have to take responsibility for something. And don't put it on the other person. Look at your own part in it. But look at do they look at their part? See, that is part of this back and forth of relationships. It isn't all about the other person and their need, to take accountability or what they're lacking or bringing to the commitment. It is looking at ourselves too, because if we allow it, shame on us. That's all I'm going to say. Shame on us. All right. So that's the 7th. Then we've got the 8th. Wednesday is the 8th. The moon will still be in Virgo. It is going to make a sextile to Mars in Scorpio. So very, very productive. Absolutely great day to get things done, to iron out anything having to do with, oh geez, it looks like a good day to go to therapy or make an appointment or get on that. Get on it. The moon is going to make a trine to Uranus, so it supports making new, making, well, Virgo is our routines and our everyday life, and um, Uranus is about change. So this is a good day to make a change for the better. Absolutely. Deal with any health issues. And, this takes practical steps, whether it's going to the doctor, having surgery. We are dealing with Mars. What parts of the body we could be dealing with. The digestive system, the intestinal, lower excretory organs, sexual organs, reproductive organs. So it's a good day to deal with anything having to do with the body and the lower half of it, below the waist. And yeah, whether it's looking for information on things, researching health topics, doing detoxes. Ooh, this is a really good phase of the moon with the moon in Virgo. If you want to do any kind of detoxes that have to do with digestion and releasing, make sure you use a lot of fiber with that. Anytime you detox, if you do not detox the colon, you're just going to be reabsorbing the toxins. So, this is a good day to do that. Very much favored with this phase of the moon because it's waning. We're releasing and detox. Absolutely. Getting rid of heavy metals. Um, and detoxing emotionally also. And that goes along with when you do a detox, like a serious full on detox, uh, you're you're releasing stuck energy. So there are emotions. There's a mental emotional component that goes along with that. So making sure that you're drinking enough water and using that fiber and keeping things moving. If you're going to do any like colonics or stuff like that, that would be really helpful. Or just get a freaking enema bag from CVS. Make sure that you sterilize it and use clean water. But this will help you because if the toxins do not move through your colon, you will have you will have detox symptoms and they won't be pleasant. Just saying. All right. So that's the 7th. Then we've got Wednesday the 8th. No, that was the 8th. Sorry. Wednesday the 8th with the moon in Virgo, mid to later degrees of Virgo, and very supportive for any kind of therapy, talking, um, getting deep, psychological. There won't be surface level discussions, but they will be very detailed and analytical because it's Virgo, but a good day. I mean, at the very least, to journal your feelings and help to release that stuck energy. Very, very supported with the moon making a trine to Uranus in Taurus. That looks great. I like that. So, then we move on to Thursday the 9th. We've got Venus moving into Libra. So it'll get a little bit lighter. It'll be a little bit more fair and diplomatic in terms of relationships. And the opposition from Venus to Neptune will be moving away. And that's going on all week. So that's what I was talking about with the projection onto others and sort of maybe a little bit of idealism and fantasy and escapism. There's probably that's a lot a lot. But anyway, so the relationship stuff starts to shift, and also Venus will make an in conjunct to Saturn. So that means an adjustment could feel a little uncomfortable. We could come up against a blockage, a delay, an insecurity in how we're relating to other people. It's possible. Now, the moon for part of the day will be in Virgo, so we will be dealing with that sort of shadow projection, fantasy, escapism, before the moon moves from Virgo into Libra. And once it does move into Libra, then I feel like we're maybe being a little bit more diplomatic about the relationships and commitments and the ways that things need to change. And so, yeah, that's the 9th. So, the 9 is an ending day, guys. So, whatever has been building from the 3, the 6 to the 9, from last Friday the 3rd, Monday the 6th, and Thursday the 9th, Thursday is the peak of that energy. We're in the waning moon. We are releasing. We're coming into a place where we need greater balance and diplomacy. Venus is happy. It's in Libra. So it seems like progress. I don't hate it. Mercury is going to be 28, 29 degrees of Scorpio. That'll be a sextile to Pluto. So, on a mental level, we are processing our emotions. We are understanding a little bit more of the scorpionic dynamic of being able to communicate and be intimate. You cannot have intimacy, true intimacy, unless you have trust and to be able to communicate things that are normally of an uncomfortable nature. In Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio needs to do that. It needs it. So it is very much supported, and there is a transformation happening because Mercury is supported by Pluto. Pluto wants to change, Pluto wants to transform, and it should be easy to talk about it. We should be wanting to talk about the death and rebirth. We could be talking about death. You know, these aspects here in Scorpio have been really kind of challenging. The Sun, Mercury, Mars, all in Scorpio. Um, Normally during this time of year, we think about death. We think about the other side. We think about what is the nature of the transformation that happens when we drop the body and we're just a spirit. So, it's been interesting because all of those planets have opposed Jupiter, which is our belief systems and our higher learning perspective. And being in the sign of Taurus, Taurus is the body. Interesting. And maybe how thinking about how we can rejuvenate the body, transform, renew. That's very scorpionic. And uh, thinking about taboo subjects, discussing things, talking about about sex, about our sex lives and why we don't have one. And or if we do have one, how can we make it better? And yeah, and Scorpio, I mean, Mercury in Scorpio is like, this is a great time for people to be talking about, what are their wants, their needs, their, uh, what is normally taboo or they feel uncomfortable asking for. Um, there's a need for greater intimacy. So, intimacy in terms of being able to be open and vulnerable and feel safe that that person isn't going to use that against you or judge you. And then Uranus in Taurus, we are having some massive Kundalini energy. So I've been watching this one person on Twitter, and it's a new friend. We're not really friends. We've interacted here and there. I think she followed me. I don't think I followed her. I think she followed me. She's very interesting and very much, along the lines of where I'm at. And I've just been watching her tweets, and she's been talking about some of the things she's been going through, like physically and spiritually, and she's describing all of these symptoms of Kundalini rising. And I think it's fantastic because it's for the casual observer, might seem like she's teetering on the verge of sanity, but I love that she's doing it publicly and in real time and without shame or just like not giving a shit if anyone's judging her, right? So that is part of this Jupiter in Taurus and Uranus in Taurus, where our beliefs are changing, our physical reality is changing, our physical bodies are changing, and Uranus relates to electrical currents, energetic pathways, and meridians, and Kundalini. And so I'm finding this very interesting myself. So I don't know what her chart it looks like, but I can guarantee that the Scorpio stuff is hitting her. I think she's younger, well, younger than me, so she could be probably Pluto in Scorpio, and Pluto could be aspecting her Pluto, and Uranus could be aspecting her Pluto. I don't know. But I would say that the Kundalini stuff is probably triggering it not probably. It is triggering certain groups of people in certain generational spans of where their Uranus and where their Pluto happens to be. Also Chiron, and I look at Saturn too. But Uranus was triggered with the solar eclipse. So that's kind of when I started seeing her with these posts. I don't know, like I kind of want to ask her about her chart. But it's that weird erratic behavior that like super I don't give a fuck maverick type Uranus, and like reporting things of the like physical. She's reporting the physical changes. I'm observing that and I'm thinking that she's going through a Kundalini awakening because of everything that she's describing. And she's describing physical changes and feelings and sensations. So a lot of this is bringing us out of our body, but into our body at the same time, because it is triggering feelings and sensations and filtering them through the body. Um, and that's how we are experiencing, because Uranus is in Taurus, an earth sign. So this is affecting people who were born in the 60s, like with their Pluto and Uranus in the later degrees of Virgo. And because it already hit the ones that were born earlier in the 60s, but Jupiter's coming along to activate that now for the people who had that Uranus Pluto conjunction in the 60s. That it's that rebelliousness is coming back up, where like it's like you get hit by a lightning bolt and suddenly you don't give a shit. You got to do what you got to do. You got to make changes. It's causing people to just, whether it's conscious or unconscious, when you lose a job or you lose a partnership, a lot of times that can be unconscious. You didn't see it coming, but it's part of the plan, because it's this Kundalini energy moving up through the spine, going through the chakras, and blasting out all the blockages. Some of those blockages are gonna have they're gonna, it's gonna be, well, let's just say there are things that are gonna be coming up because of Saturn. But the energy wants to be freed. It wants to be able to move freely through our body. So where you see a difficulty or problems, resistance, that's where the blockage is. That's what you need to work on. Don't avoid it. Don't shove it under the rug. You won't be able to. Anyway, so Thursday looks like a really cool day. The moon. And then it moves into Libra, and so it is resolving some of those blockages. And then as it goes into Libra and hits Venus, we get a boost, we get a blessing. Moon Venus is it's a sweet energy. So even if we hit a rocky patch, it all seems to even out, and we learn something from it. We do. We learn something. We're gaining from every loss. So by Friday, on the 10th, Friday is a 1 day. So whatever we've gone through all week, by Friday, it's like we've got somewhat of a new start. We have Mercury coming into Sagittarius. And so the tone gets lighter. The discussions are a little more peaceful, diplomatic, like I said, more hopeful. Sagittarius is a very optimistic sign. So the speech, what we will want to be speaking forward, will be from a higher perspective. It will be with an eye towards creating more harmony and balance within our relationships, within our society, within our government, hopefully. But there will be changes, and they may include some degree of sacrifice. That's Saturn. Saturn is also sacrifice. And I could just hear the tone of the talk of the day on Friday of, these are the issues, and going forward, we can resolve them, but we're gonna have to make a sacrifice. We're gonna have to give something up. We're gonna have to cut back. We're gonna have to have a boundary. We're going to have to be responsible and accountable. Could we be balancing the budget? Oh God, we'll see. So there will be there will be some focus on news and media in terms of legal laws and government and shutdowns. I don't know. Maybe. I don't think so. I think they'll change the rules before they'll let things collapse. That's how I'm seeing all of this friction within the government and the uncertainty and the fight and the polarity. They're going to change the rules before they're going to let themselves be shut down. But that also includes amnesty and exposure, because that's the other thing that's happening now. There is exposure of a lot of shit right now in our government. And I've heard talk of amnesty. If there are so many people guilty of so many crimes and it's all coming out and people are demanding justice, and in order to keep the structure intact and have a functioning government, they might just do that. Some sort of amnesty program. Because otherwise they'd all be out of a job now, wouldn't they? So, yeah, Venus in Libra and Mercury in Sagittarius and Saturn in Pisces. Doesn't that feel like amnesty? Where's Mars? Well, Mars is still in Scorpio, and Mars will be pissed. Pissed. So, Mars, after that, is actually on Friday, Mars is going to be opposing Uranus, which is rebellion, and and then the sun. So the sun will be on Friday. The sun will be at 18 degrees of Scorpio. It will be beginning to oppose Uranus, rebellion, protest, and Mars. It will be conjuncting Mars, anger, violence, protest. Okay, this is a good day to watch for um, road rage if you're driving. Um, yeah, I don't like this. Like, the Mercury Venus is cool, and it is a new start, and it is dealing with some responsibility with Saturn, but there's also fear with Saturn. But then this underlying energy of the sun with Mars opposing Uranus, well, I mean, it could go many different ways, but like worst case scenario is um, using force and violence and anger against another person, and it just happens like it's a knee-jerk reaction. That's Uranus. And without restraint, and the anger takes over. So if this is in your chart, really try to work through. Um, well, I mean, we're also talking about Mars and Scorpio and sex, so like that's not a bad thing. Just make sure it's consensual. Um, it sounds great for people who are in a loving, mutual, respectful pair bond. But there will be some people expressing this in a highly negative way. I don't know that it like this is the kind of thing where it may not be outright um, sex related, but I guarantee you that sex is the underlying current. And it is a repressed and unhealthy, but like it just doesn't have a healthy expression. I'm thinking about particular religions that suppress a natural expression, and where there's a lack of freedom of expression, it turns into a very negative expression toward another person. I think you know what I'm talking about. So, there is that. There is an underlying tension there regardless, and it's deep, it's primal, it's masculine, it's wanting to really rebel and come against any kind of repression. It really wants freedom, it wants change. But I could see people towards the end of the week on Friday reacting to whatever has been going on, um, obviously politically. So, danger Will Robinson if you're involved in any kind of group activities, because Uranus is ruler of Aquarius. Aquarius rules groups. So I don't really like it. I don't go out and protest. I hate crowds. I don't even like going to concerts. So it won't be me. But if that is you, please take care and please be safe. Um, there's also, I have to really, I can't not mention the role of Uranus and technology and the role of Saturn and censorship. So I do think that that will also be playing a role. Whatever's going on this week, involving digital communications, whether that's somebody texting somebody, um, or making posts on social media, I don't think it's going to be necessarily a positive thing for what I'm seeing. But, we have been talking about censorship and shutdowns of social media, and I have seen with these large protests a lot of weird internet activity, whether they are I feel like there's a throttling, what I've seen, a throttling of streaming, being able to stream things, um, upload a video, that kind of thing. What? Did you hear that little kitty? Oh my God, I don't know if you guys heard that. She was so cute. She's been sleeping here next to me and she just got up and said, wow, 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 wow. Now she's throwing up. Oh, great. Don't throw up on the carpet. Get it out, girl. Ugh. I hope no one can hear that. The cat's throwing up. Somebody needs to release some toxins. Yikes. Okay, I wanted to look at where a certain asteroid is. Photographica. It is in Cancer at 16 degrees. Conjunct Kronos. Kronos is, I would look at it as power, a deeply entrenched power, long-standing power structures. But Photographica at 16, 17 degrees in Cancer. Let's see, that's making a trine to Mars and the Sun and a sextile to Uranus. I do think that there is pictures and things coming out that certain people will have a vested interest in not seeing come out. Uh, Photographica is squaring Chiron. Where's the moon? The moon is in Libra. Oh, yeah. Okay. So on the 10th, the moon will be around 17, 18 degrees, 16, 17, right there. It'll square Photographica. I expect that there will be photos. I don't think it'll be pleasant. I think that they will want to keep this from hitting the public and the media because the moon will square Photographica, and I've seen that come up with, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it'll either be crossing a line of what is okay to share, perhaps on social media. We'll find out where the glass ceiling is, right? The boundary, the invisible boundary of Saturn and Pisces. We'll find out where the invisible boundary is when we hit that wall or that ceiling. But it's interesting. I don't know what will come of it, but look for anything that comes up around pictures, sharing pictures, sharing media, um, something that garners a lot of attention because it's a sensational picture. Now, we have dealt with the AI and deep fakes too, so there's always that issue. But we're we're getting pretty good at debunking that. All right, so that's Friday. Moon is in Libra. It will conjunct the South Node late in the day, probably overnight. There will be a loss, a release of some sort. Um, whether it's a release of information, a release of a person, a release in terms of our relationships where we need to lighten the load, balance the scales, people. That's what it's all about right now. Um, and we are moving into the dark of the moon after that. So the 11th, the moon, it will be early going into overnight into the next day. Well, early on the 11th in Libra, like I said, hitting the South Node. Look and see if that deals with anything in your chart. It will be passing over the solar eclipse degree. So there will be a completion of some sort of your eclipse story. Whatever came up, whether it was a rebellion, a separation, an ending, a sudden change because the solar eclipse made an inconjunct to Uranus. So um, expect the unexpected, and it will cause us to have to make adjustments and changes. So roll with it. Then after that, for most of the day, the moon will be in Scorpio. So again, we are at that point Saturday, almost to the new moon, running out of steam, so to speak. So it's where you kind of really want to lay back and take it easy, go within, analyze, but like really psychoanalyze yourself because this is the wrapping up of Scorpio season. We are going to be moving forward soon. Well, I mean, we have like 2 weeks, but uh we're starting to come out of that Scorpio haze as Mercury goes into Sagittarius. So on the mental level, things are shifting, but we're still dealing with the very deep parts of our psyche and our shadow and our fears and our taboos and whatever. So Saturday the 11th again, moon in Scorpio, taking it easy. The moon is not really making any aspects, so we're kind of sitting in the energy until we get to the new moon. It will oppose Jupiter. When will that be? Late. The 11th into the 12th, it'll oppose Jupiter. So, you know, um, oh, my bad. So the moon will make a trine, um, yeah, a trine aspect from Scorpio to Pisces, where we'll be dealing with Saturn. We'll have to understand our limitations, our restrictions, our responsibilities, our delays, our tests, our fears, all about Saturn. We may have a greater understanding of what is before us. And if we're going into a time of lack or austerity, um, planning for that, being able to plan for that. Okay, so let's see. Mm, 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 mm. What else is going on the 12th? Well, the 12th is a 13th. I'm sorry, we're still on the 11th. Sorry. Well, Mars is opposing Uranus, so it starts on Saturday. Really, it starts on Friday. Friday, Saturday. Mars is highly volatile. Um, just be careful of making sudden movements, sudden changes, giving up into anger. But there will be really a real desire to change and break free and shift all this muckety muck. Just be careful. That's all I'm saying. And that lasts really, I would say it only starts to come off of the opposition with Mars and Uranus by the 15th, like the middle of next week. So just just saying what you want to watch out for. Um all right, yeah. So the 12th, we've got the moon in Scorpio still. And like I said, opposing Jupiter, it will oppose Saturn and conjunct to Mars and the moon. Um, I'm sorry, the sun. So this is like the very, 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 very last sliver of, I think by that time we won't be able to see the moon by Sunday night. And it really favors keeping to yourself and being around loved ones that you trust and who are there to help you, who are committed, who are able to share in your darkness together and plan for the future and who share your beliefs. Moon opposite Jupiter, and we can learn from them. It's not all that bad. Mercury and Venus are still in sextile from Sagittarius and Libra. So, yeah, I mean, we can find allies. There are allies, definitely, but those are the people that, like I said before, that people that you can count on, the people that are committed, accountable, responsible, mature, practical. Those are the people that you want. Don't hitch your wagon to a lame horse. Just saying. So, dark of the moon on the 12th. If you do any kind of releasing rituals or meditations, that's a really good time to take a cleansing bath or a purge. I do like that. And then Monday is the new moon, and we get to sing Duran Duran's New Moon on Monday. That about wraps it up. Hello in the chat room. Hi, Dave. Dave's on the West Coast now. Dave is on the left coast. Uh, let's see. Great Dalmuti. Greetings, Great Dalmuti. Greetings to you. Ah, you heard that with the kitty. Ooh, I thought it was cute until she started like puking. What's going on with that? I've been giving her some like medicine. It's not it's herbal. It's natural stuff. It's not anything chemical, but it could be a hairball. Who knows? I usually don't see her throwing up hairballs, but I'll have to inspect it. Ugh. That's pretty gross. Poor girl. I say, get it out, purge it out, whatever end it needs to come out, let it go. Oh, it's funny. It reminds me of a saying that my grandmother had. Let me see, how did it go? Um, Wherever you be, let your wind go free. Something about being whether in something or chapel. No, I don't remember. I'm gonna have to ask my mom about that. Something about I want to say something about being in church, but it wasn't church. Church, chapel, let it rattle, maybe. You see, my family has been into bathroom jokes for many, many generations. Absolutely. Dave says, breaking free wind. Yes, I support it. It's like Shrek. Better out than in. Aye, Fiona. Oh my God. See that's love. If you can fart in front of someone and they don't kick you out of bed, then you know they're a keeper. But if they hotbox you, I I think you might want to leave that bastard because that's cruel and unusual punishment. Sadistic. All right, guys, you know where to find me. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I am on Rumble. Oh, back to what I was talking about in the beginning of the show, my magically disappearing views on my Monday show, Aquarius and the abduction of Ganymedes. I migrated that video over to Rumble because Rumble doesn't give a fuck. So far, we'll see. We'll see what happens with these aspects. I feel censorship coming on. But yes, thank you, Dave. I'm glad you liked the episode. Have a great week. I'm sure I'll talk to you later or soon. Um yeah, so find me on Rumble. I now have 2 verboten videos on Rumble and um I should be proud of myself because I'm definitely on the right track if I can lose half of my views on a freaking video, have it throttled, go from an average of 45 to 50 views roughly on a video consistently and then put one out and I only get 10 views, that's when I knew something was wrong. Uh, and then it goes down to 5. Really? Okay, so you'll find that on Rumble. Go see me on Rumble, Astro Lunatic, and go to that video from Monday. Fuck it. Right here on YouTube, I challenge everyone and I ask you for your support. Go over to that video and watch it, listen to it. I think you'll find it very interesting and informative. And it is my interpretation of where to find certain proclivities in a chart that involve talent scouting for a particular purpose and proclivity. I won't say it. I really don't want to be throttled. I don't want to be throttled for your sake. I want everybody to be able to hear what I have to say. But I don't really care in terms of like my visibility or popularity or fame or whatever. I could give a fuck. But I don't like to be told that I can't do something because then I'm going to do it. Anyway, you can find me on Substack. I have a newsletter. Please subscribe. I have a gilded chat room, and there is a link in the description box. If you should require my services, for which I charge by the hour, you're paying for my time, so you know we can look at whatever you want, talk about whatever you want, but yes, if you should require my services astrologically or otherwise, you can contact me by email at astrolunatic@gmail.com, or you can reach me on the Astro Lunatic hotline at 914-222-1231. Call, leave a message, or text me. Let me know what you need and how I can be of service. And we'll have a little discussion about astrology and your chart. Um, yeah, so I think that's pretty much all I wanted to discuss today. I hope you all have a lovely week and um yeah, so connect with me. I don't have many friends to play with on the interwebs, so I always like it when new people come over and join the fun on Twitter, especially. Uh, but I know a lot of people aren't on Twitter. But I'm there on Instagram. I'm there on Facebook. I have the page on Facebook. I have a personal profile too. But I don't know. I hate fucking Facebook. Uh, Wherever you can find me on all social media platforms, Astro Lunachick. It is I. So thank you guys again. Uh, and just a reminder to like and share and subscribe and hit the bell to get the notifications. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your follows, likes, subscribes, your feedback. I don't usually get comments on my videos, but feedback would be nice. Tell me what you think. If you like it, you don't like it, you think I'm crazy, whatever. Hit me. I can handle it. All right, guys. Much love to everyone, and ciao for now.